Yo, Adrian, it's me, Rocky. Rocky,
Hi there, and welcome to Baseball by Design. I am SportsLogos.net minor league baseball correspondent Paul Caputo, broadcasting live, as always, from the Sunday Helmet Hall of Fame in my basement in Fort Collins, Colorado. This is going to be a really fun episode, the predecessor to the Hartford Yard Goats. The New Britain Rock Cats played in New Britain, Connecticut, and you know Guy Gilchrist. If you're a minor league baseball fan, you know Guy's work from the Portland Sea Dogs, classic minor league baseball logo. Buddy B from the Binghamton Mets, the old school Binghamton Mets, before they were the Rumble Ponies. And of course, the New Britain Rock Cats. Oh, and also, Guy Gilchrist has a new TV show coming up on the MLB Network, which we're going to get into as well. Guy Gilchrist, hello, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. It's great to be here. Talking baseball is one of my favorite things.
Well, and not only talking baseball, but you are deeply rooted in minor league baseball lore in terms of some of these classic logos that you've created. I know that you've done a ton of other work for, I may have to let you just list it all, but Disney and Fraggle Rock and now this new character on the MLB Network, a lot of character development work. So most of what you do is outside the realm of minor league baseball. May I ask you to just give us the highlights of your resume with some of the incredible stuff that you've done in your career?
Well, I guess, Paul, I will always be known as Jim Henson's cartoonist.
Mm.
Jim, I auditioned for Jim Henson when Muppet Mania was really at its height in 1980. And at the end of a 2 year search of Jim's through a few hundred people, I became the cartoonist for a daily comic strip that was distributed worldwide based on The Muppet Show. I wrote it and drew it, and that was the thing that I was most responsible for. I was basically a team of one. I brought my brother Brad on board. Jim used to call us Henson Associates North because I was in Connecticut, or Muppet Labs. He would like leave me a message, how are things at Muppet Labs? Anyway, so the Muppets comic strip, and for the viewers out there that are younger than me, and that's all of them, uh, newspapers were a huge thing in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so we were literally read every day, The Muppet Show, by 150 million people around the world in every language. So I'll always be known for that. That's what put me at the Smithsonian, brought me to the White House in the 80s. And while I was with Jim, once I got comfortable with the daily deadline and also comfortable with never sleeping, he brought me on board to work on Fraggle Rock. Then we created the Muppet Babies, and I worked on every one of Jim's creations until his passing. Once Jim had passed away, uh, I went to work for a lot of fly by night organizations that no one has ever heard of, like Universal Pictures, Disney, MGM, United Artists, the list goes on. Uh, and I did the Nancy and Sluggo comic strip for almost 23 years, wrote and drew that. Again, I brought my brother Brad on for that. And and then created a whole bunch of characters for a lot of things. And many of the children's books that you kids had, whether they were the Muppets, the Babies, all the Henson stuff, or Tiny Toons, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Looney Tunes, all that good stuff. A lot of the Disney stuff, Ariel and Minnie Mouse, and et cetera, Rescue Rangers. And then there were a bunch of books of my own, like Mud Pie, Just Imagine, The Tiny Dinos. And, one of my joys, besides writing and drawing and creating these characters and stories, my recreations besides golf has always been baseball. It's a huge thing with me. Growing up in New England and the Red Sox and Ted Williams and Carl Yastrzemski, and getting into minor league ball and creating logos was a real joy. And I don't know if you and I have discussed this before, but crazily enough, it came from me creating a Japanese soccer character named Pal Chan for J League, the S Pulse, Shimasu S Pulse, and Sony over in Tokyo. You know, so via Tokyo, I wound up not just attending minor league games and shagging flies and stuff at Muzzy Field, but creating the characters and the logos.
Well, that preface is so much fun because you've done so much work, and I remember when we talked about the Portland Sea Dogs early on in this podcast. You showed up with a Kermit, a full sized Kermit doll, and I was just like, all right, now I'm among royalty right now. Oh,
Oh,
here we
he's
go.
here. He's here. I don't know if
There
you
he
hear.
is.
There he is.
Amazing.
There he's
What
wearing a
hat is
red
he wearing? What's he got? Oh,
hat.
he's got a Red Sox
Oh,
cap on.
there's Rolf. And yeah. Mhm.
There they all are. Amazing. So, back then, the Hardware City Rock Cats baseball team, it made me think of the song Stray Cat Strut
Yeah.
because he's a cool cat, playing the guitar, got his sunglasses, very much character based. And a lot of minor league baseball branding these days is character based. Where did this character come from?
I grew up in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I also had known Joe Buzis, the owner, since around 72 or 73, 74, somewhere like that. As a kid, I knew Joe. And so I knew a lot about his history and also the history of New Britain, Connecticut. Joe bought his first minor league team, and it was in like the Adirondack League or something like that. It was a short A team in New York from Tom Yawkey for $1 in 1957. So that's the birth of rock and roll. And New Britain and the area around New Britain has a lot of quarries. And there's a major artery, a highway, that started in the 1950s through the 60s. It's Route 84, and it goes into Route 72, and that's how you get to New Britain from Hartford. And the bedrock for that road came from the quarries, and the workers were from the New Britain area. So I put the two things together. And New Britain, for many, many years, because of Stanley Tools, and was known as the Hardware City. And it was a very, blue collar, let's go to work, lunchbox area. And with a lot of people that that wore hard hats, worked very, very hard. And that was the image that I wanted to portray for that town. They were actually, not in such great shape at the time that I created this. And I wanted to kind of take it back, a nostalgic look at the height of their really the peak, of their manufacturing and all of the wonderful things that they did. When I create these characters, oh, and we forgot one, remember? Okay, the Norwich Navigators,
Oh,
Tater
yeah.
the Gator. Tater the Gator. Very short lived, but I love that guy. And he was Tater. That was what George Scott used to call home runs. Anyway, So I liked when I create a character, it wasn't. I didn't create the character basically for like the sports fan of this particular team or anything like that. I want the character to be a representative of the city and its people and the heart of its people, and then round out the character's personality with good sportsmanship, humor, uh, healthy things like, eating healthy and making sure that you're playing outside, you're playing with your friends, all of that good stuff that, that people associate with the best parts of sports, team sports and individual sports. We want to lift people up and have these characters be a positive representation, of the character. And so I created this character Rocky the Rock Cat with a leather jacket, and he was very over the top, with like a sort of a baseball bat, electric guitar, and people went nuts over it. And and the mayor, I remember the mayor being so thrilled to death that this was called the Hardware City Rockettes. And I had like a moon, like a cat under a moon, and the moon was like a C. And so it said, Hardware City, an H and a C. And then about a year in to creating this character, Major League Baseball called me and said, "You have to change the name because everyone's looking for Hardware City
Oh,
on the map and they don't know where that is." So then we did more of a we simplified the logo and then created the New Britain Rockettes. But I had known Joe for a long time. That's how I met Charlie Eschbach as well. The Rockettes were the twins, but Joe had a relationship for 30 years with the Red Sox. And so Muzzy Field in the 70s, that was the Bristol Red Sox, Double A Red Sox, and they were only 10 minutes from my house, and we were all the same age, the guys and me.
yeah.
And so we used to be out on the field horsing around all the time. You know, it I was so happy to do this logo. You have no idea. It
The
brought so many things together for me.
the illustration that you're talking about is really fun too. And I want to get into this a little bit here because you mentioned that the moon doubled as the letter C. There's a letter H that feels like it's sort of like a high-rise building sort of off in the
Yes.
background. So that's the H and the C. The character, he's got this sort of like John Travolta hairstyle. He's got the leather jacket and the sunglasses. It very much has like a 50s feeling about it, though this brand came out in 1995. This was mid 90s. A lot of other stuff going on in minor league baseball at that time, right? Like you had the one I always point to is the Carolina Mudcats, were sort of one of the first teams to really show, oh, you can have a fun, unique logo for a minor league baseball team. Your
It
Portland
was
Sea
very,
Dogs.
yeah, it was very interesting because the Mudcats came out right after the Sea Dogs. You know, just saying,
And a very
just saying.
similar sort of
Well,
animal.
Paul, the thing was that the reason that you know, I had this idea that started with the Sea Dogs.
Yeah.
And the idea was actually 2 years before I did the Sea Dogs. When I came back from Japan, I approached Charlie, and Charlie Eschbach at that time was the commissioner of minor league baseball. And I said, Charlie, the the baseball teams, these double A and triple A baseball teams, are getting the short end of the stick in every way. Uh, you're only, everybody's logo is a version of the lettering or the hat of the major league team, and it has nothing to do with the town. There's no mascots. If you do have a mascot, it's just like sort of like it's a whatever,
Hmm.
because it doesn't have anything to do with the name of the team, basically, and or the town. And I said, why can't we do something about that? Why can't we have a character and a name that speaks to the town? And and he said, well, everything would have to get approved by Major League Baseball. He says, but that he says, I've been wondering that my whole life. Like, why aren't we making money ourselves instead of 10% of the major league team's money? We could put money, we could get more, we could have better stadiums, we could get, in the short term, better equipment. Because right now we're just getting the hand me downs from the minor league, from the majors. And I'm like, well, let's do it. And he said, Guy, in about a year and a half, I'm going to be the president of a team up in Portland, Maine. And Dan Burke, the CEO of ABC, is retiring. And we're going to have a team up there. Now, we don't know what it's going to be. And so that was the beginning of it. And because at the time, there were the Toledo Mud Hens and the Bulls, the Durham Bulls. And besides that, there weren't any characters that had anything to do with, and these are independent teams, that go, that, change up, who
Hmm.
they're going to be affiliated with. And so it was sort of, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a sort of a revolutionary idea. I didn't know, it was just sort of, I loved baseball, and my job was to create worlds,
Yeah.
characters and environments and worlds around them and stories. And but on when the Sea Dogs happened, and I know we're talking about the Rockettes, but
Well, that's okay.
the Rockettes is because of the Sea Dogs. Because as soon as the Sea Dogs came out, and we sold 1 million caps before we ever played a game. We were on the cover of Baseball America, like everything. I remember a picture of Charlie at Hadlock as it's being built in a blizzard. And the article said, these guys are selling more hats than the LA Dodgers. And they haven't played a game yet. And so my phone rang off the hook. But it seemed like everybody like caught on pretty quick. And there became like, the river rats and this and that and da. And good for everybody. I'm not making any claims. I think that the revolution that I wanted to happen, where the towns and the teams were getting revenue to help better their stadiums and their equipment and all of that and the salaries for everybody.
Yep.
That was what was intended all along.
Well, and it was so successful that eventually Major League Baseball saw it and said, "Oh, now we need to take that over." And so now Major League Baseball has taken over minor league baseball. That's neither here nor there. That's a whole other conversation. But yeah, that revolution of character based, fun minor league baseball logos really took off in the '90s. And as you say, the Sea Dogs, the Navigators, Buddy B, and this Hardware City
Yep.
Rock Cats character, Rocky the Rock Cat. There is a detail that I want to ask you about, and then I wanted to talk to you about your show on the MLB Network. The tail
Yeah.
of Rocky the Rock Cat is in the shape of a number. And I believe there's a story about that tail and that number. What is the number, and what is the reason for it?
Well, it's number 9, man. Number 9. And in 1957, who was the greatest player in baseball? Let's go back to 1939 and who was the best player in baseball? Ted Williams, my favorite player.
Yeah.
And so even though this was a Twins logo, uh, you know, the Red Sox had been around for a long time, and they were a popular team in and anyway, and he's my favorite player. So it was number 9. And the first year, and when they the first year of the logo, I came in for a meeting, and when Tony Oliva, who was
Mhm.
number 9 as
Also
well,
number 9.
says
Yeah.
says says thank you for that, and I go, thank you, Mr. Oliva, and could you sign this baseball for me?
Of course. Why was the sort of 50s style of the logo important? Like why, even though it was from the 90s, it's very much a sort of 50s rock and roll feeling. Why was that decision made to make this sort of a 50s feeling character?
Well, certainly, certainly the historic part of Joe being in it since '57
Mm,
has something to do with it, but also, um, he was going to be a character that was unlike any other character in
mm,
all of sports. That he was going to be a cool cat, like you just mentioned the stray cats.
yeah.
He was going to be a cool cat. Arthur Fonzarelli, the Fonz was popular, uh, and this character was going to be able to, have an electric guitar, and as the character at the stadium, at the ballpark, because that wasn't a stadium, it was a ballpark,
Of
at the
course.
ballpark, and then going into schools and all of that. He was going to be a character that was going to be, like, cool. And also, I wanted it to be cool that he was a good sportsman,
Mm,
that he played the game fairly, that he had healthy habits and all of that, and that could rock,
mm,
because it was very, very important. The public schools were not in great shape. uh, it was very, very important for him to be a part of the public schools, to say that reading is cool, staying in school is cool. And that was a lot of the promotion of the character. And the 50s had been coming back through MTV.
mm.
There was a lot of visual stuff besides the stray cats. There were a lot of the punk groups, and uh, and a lot of visualization now of rock and roll. And you had 50s themed stuff throughout. You had, Cheap Trick doing stuff. And I can't even think of all the group, but a lot of people were doing, stuff that was sort of like, Elvis movie based and all of that kind of thing, because it was still MTV, was a huge, huge part. And so, and again, it was going to make him completely individual. There
Mm.
was not going to be anybody else. You could have a cat, but this one had a pompadour and shades and a leather jacket, and he was cool.
Well, this positive message and the positivity around this character are consistent, I have to say, with you on social media. I said before we started recording, I've always loved following you on social media. You're a ray of sunshine, a ray of positivity, and so I really appreciate that in a landscape on social media now that is not always like that. So this character certainly reflects that ethos of yours. But I can't let you go without talking about this Major League Baseball Network TV show. What is the show? What is the character you're creating? What's your involvement? And when do we get to see it?
You can see it right now.
Holy smokes.
And the show is called MLB's Traveling Spaceship Show. And the great Mike Furno, the mighty Mike Furno, the Inferno himself, who's been with Major League Baseball Network forever, uh, and does many of the documentaries and much of the programming on Major League Baseball Network. Mike had an idea that we could take the love that everybody has for the Muppets, baseball, uh, do an 80s, 90s sort of retro idea where Major League Baseball owns 1 million clips of the entire history of baseball, all the funny stuff, all the ridiculous stuff, and all of the historic stuff. And wouldn't it be kind of neat to sort of take Mystery Science Theater and, but like, have it be baseball clips? So we put together a team. Sarah Tiana, the great Sarah Tiana, she's go Braves. I know Sarah. I know go Braves. She's a big Georgia girl. Uh, and we got a young guy involved that we think is going to have a pretty bright future. His name is Bob Costas.
That guy.
Yeah, yeah, we're thinking something's going to work out with him. So anyway, so Bob Costas plays a supercomputer on a a cartoon spaceship. We created this spaceship that is very retro, and the spaceship can travel through all dimensions, space, time, and Jax is the name of the pilot and the character that I created. And he is a little blue alien who has a little bit of attitude. And he is the pilot of the spaceship. And so he and Captain Sarah and Supercomputer Bob take us all through the history of baseball, having a lot of fun, learning stuff. We have incredible guest stars on there. On the very first episode, we travel to OG Seattle. And then who shows up on our computer but Ken Griffey Jr., the kid himself? To chat with Jax the puppet, about a feud that he's having with one of the mascots. And so yeah, so it's wonderful that I was, that they had reached out to me and said, gee, we you've created a lot of Muppets and stuff in your life, and we'd like another one. And this time it's for baseball. And so you can see it. If you're a subscriber of MLB Network, then yay you. And look it up. It's called the Traveling Spaceship Show. It's usually on right after Pedro Martinez show. But if you want to watch it for free, and everybody does, and please, please, please do that, because it helps to show the commissioner and Major League Baseball that we are a popular show. You can look up MLB Traveling Spaceship Show on YouTube and watch it for free. We even have a link on our website, which is guygilchrist.com.
Well, and that'll definitely be in the show notes of this episode. One last question for you, Guy. These, these classic logos, you've had success with these logos. You see what's going on in minor league baseball now. Any interest in getting back in the logo game? Might we see new Guy Gilchrist logos out there in minor league baseball?
Oh, I'm always game for it. Always. You know, it's interesting. I enjoy talking about my career, but I enjoy a white piece of paper much more. Because, like George Burns once said, I look to the future because that's where I'm living. Because that's where I'll be living there.
Yeah.
I look to the future because that's where I'll be living there. Um, you know, I'm now right now creating a mascot for the University of Kentucky.
Okay.
They already have the Wildcats and everything, but we're creating a child's logo that's going to be tied to the University of Kentucky in baseball, football, basketball, everything that they do, and the Children's Hospital.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm always creating brand new stuff, and I would love, I don't even like to say get back in the game because I don't feel like I've ever really left. The wonderful thing about about the Sea Dogs, for instance, is that there are new designs that I work on every year. With
That's fun.
Slugger. Oh, yeah.
That's fun. I have to tell you, I saw someone online. I saw some article where someone was writing about minor league baseball logos, and they said that the Sea Dogs logo was a manatee, and there was no way to contact the author and be like, "Hey, dummy, it's obviously a harbor seal." So I would never call someone dummy, but it made me mad that someone thought the Sea Dog was a
Well,
manatee.
there's online, there's not much you can do. Not
No,
much
it's
you can
true.
do,
It's
and the
true.
more popular, and Paul, at least if you're getting trolled a little bit, you're popular.
Exactly. Guy, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. You already mentioned GuyGilchrist.com. Where can people find the work that you're doing? Which social media outlets should people come look for you on?
Yeah, well, we're on everything with our happy nostalgia, positive energy cartoon show. That's how I kind of think of these channels.
Yeah.
Is we just put positive things out there and fun things for you to see or discover for the first time or rediscover. It's Guy F as in Francis Gilchrist on Instagram. And you can find me on Threads. You can find me on Facebook. We have our own Facebook group. It's Guy Gilchrist, Jim Henson's cartoonist on Facebook. We have a Guy Gilchrist production on Facebook. And it's Guy Gilchrist on YouTube. We're everywhere. I'm going to turn 68 in a week or so. And somebody wrote to me today and said, I had posted a picture of, a video of me drawing Zoot, the saxophone player from
Sure.
from the Mayhem. And he goes, "Hi, just out of curiosity, how many times do you think you've drawn this character? Make up a number, pal. You know, uh, you can say anything from 1 to 1 million, and yes, you'll be right. I'll swear to it in a court of law. After all of these years." It's been 50 some odd since my 16 years old when I got my first job with Disney. So the neat thing about that is you just type my name into Google and everything shows up. You
Amazing.
know.
Guy, thank you so much. This
Oh,
has
thank
been
you.
so much fun, and I can't wait to go check out MLB's Traveling Spaceship Show and maybe try to find some Hardware City Rock Cats gear on eBay or something out there in the world.
Yeah, man. I've still
Guy,
got my starter jacket.
oh,
It's
amazing.
it's wicked cool. We had a lot of silver and gold going on back then.
Too funny. Guy, thank you so much. This has been a blast.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, everyone, it is time once again for my favorite segment, your favorite segment on the Baseball by Design podcast, in which designer extraordinaire Dan Simon of the prolific design firm Studio Simon, Louisville-based Studio Simon, joins us with a trivia question that we call a Studio Simon Stumper. Dan Simon, good morning. Hello, how are you?
Good morning to you, Paul Caputo. I am fantastic. Thank you for asking. Let's do this. The New Britain Rockettes. When I was when I was thinking about what I wanted to do for this stumper,
Mhm.
my first thought was for the question to be what was past tense the name of the New Britain Rockettes mascot. And I Googled it myself to find out. And one of the first thing that came up was your story that ran on sportslogos.net of the brand update that I did, just coincidentally, the brand update that I did for the Rock Hats back in, I don't even know what year it was. And you
Oh, no.
you quoted the Stray Cats
Yeah.
song Straight Cat Strut, I think is the song.
Yeah, Stray Cat
And
Strut. He is a ladies' man.
right. And you talked about Rocky,
Yeah.
the Rock Cats mascot. And so I figured, even though that was a number of years ago, probably more than 10, maybe close to 15. So I figured, okay, you're gonna know that.
Mhm. I would have
Right.
known that.
Which is not a bad thing if you know something already.
Yeah.
But I then had to pivot a little bit, and
Okay.
that led me to this stumper,
Okay.
which asks, which of these teams does not have a mascot named Rocky? Okay. Is it A, the Wilmington Blue Rocks, B, the Reading Fightin' Phils, or C, the Memphis Redbirds?
So I know for certain that the Wilmington Blue Rocks have Rocky Bluewinkle. as their mascot, as an homage to Bullwinkle, of course. And that's a weird like amalgam of both Rocky and Bullwinkle because those are two separate characters, I think. So, but the Wilmington Blue Rocks do indeed have a Rocky. The Fightin' Phils, their mascots, I believe, an ostrich. I have never heard of a Rocky associated with the Fightin' Phils, and I feel like I would have as a Phillies fan. The Memphis Redbirds, I can see that like that Dirty Bird character maybe having like a Rocky style nickname or something like that. So I am going to go with the Reading Fightin' Phils being the team that does not have a Rocky mascot, in spite of the fact that, of course, Rocky, the fictional Sylvester Stallone character, is so closely associated with Philadelphia. I'm going to say Fightin' Phils do not have a Rocky.
Paul Caputo, you are correct.
That was a good one because I didn't know it exactly. I had to do a little bit of sussing. I could eliminate one from actual knowledge, but then I had to do a little sussing, and so that was fun.
And your sussing was, well, you said there's the connection to Philadelphia. Obviously, the Fightin' Phils are a Philadelphia Phillies minor league affiliate, but also they have the word fightin' in their name. Rocky was a prize fighter. So that's why I put that in there, hoping that you would think, well, yeah, it would make sense. So you're correct. First of all, your answer is correct. You were correct about Wilmington's mascot being named Rocky Bluewinkle, which I think is a very clever name.
Oh, yeah.
And in Memphis, this was, if I'm not mistaken, we talked about the Memphis Redbirds mascot. It might have been the stumper for the episode about the Memphis Redbirds. His name is Rocky the Rockin' Redbird. And it's, for some reason, their Rocky is spelled Rockey. Don't know why, other than maybe intellectual property concerns, maybe too many Rockies out there.
Could be.
But here's the thing about the Reading Fightin' Phils being a potential place for a potential team for a mascot named Rocky. There was a collegiate summer league Northwoods League team called the Green Bay Booyah.
Oh, yeah.
They have since changed their name. They're still there, same team, different name. They're the Green Bay Rockers. But when they were the Green Bay Booyah, they had a mascot named, it was a rooster named Rocky Balbooyah. For those who don't know, Rocky Balboa, Rocky Balbooyah. So, again, fighting. Why they named it Rocky Balboa, I don't know. But anyway, just so everyone knows, the Reading Phillies, I don't think they have a mascot that's an ostrich. I think it's a vendor who wears this ostrich thing. It looks like he's riding an ostrich is the costume that he wears, but it's not technically a mascot. But that's what led to their logo of a fighting ostrich.
Right.
Their principal mascot is Screwball, which is just this weird looking thing. But then they have 4 other mascots that I believe they all sing or play. No, I think they're part of a band. There's Bucky the Beaver, Blooper the Hound Dog, Quack the Duck, and Change Up the Turtle. Why a beaver, a hound dog, a duck, and a turtle? I don't know, but God love them. They're all Reading Fightin' Phils. And one last one to mention: the former Bowie Bay Sox, who are now the Chesapeake Bay Sox. They have 2 mascots. One is named Lewis, and one is named Rocco. So not Rocky, but Rocky adjacent.
Rocky adjacent is an excellent term. So many things have sort of popped into my head as you've been talking. I will say, I don't like to talk negatively about minor league baseball teams, at any level. The minor league big umbrella, all the levels, all the classifications. I object sort of on principle to the High Point Rockers and the origin of their nickname, which is, if I remember correctly from when I wrote this up, first of all, I liked the Booyah. That was a fun brand. And then they got purchased by an organization that essentially has like entertainment venues nearby, and they put on rock concerts at these entertainment venues. And so they renamed the team the Rockers to tie in with the fact that this new ownership group has music venues nearby. And that doesn't feel like a good reason for a minor league baseball logo and nickname. So I object to that on principle, and I miss the Booyah.
Well, here's a story about naming teams after the owner's business.
The Aviators.
I'm going to pivot to the world of professional hockey, NHL hockey specifically.
Ooh, is this going to be about the Admirals?
No,
and their
because
refrigerators?
The Admirals don't play in the NHL. So we're going to talk about NHL. So
I see.
This is things I know from experience. So first of all, something that's not from my experience, but I think we all know that the Anaheim Ducks used to be called the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. And the reason that they were called the Anaheim Mighty Ducks is they were owned by Disney, who did a movie called The Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
And later, the former owner, we can bring this back to baseball a bit, of the Florida, now Miami Marlins, was Wayne Huizenga.
Yeah.
Wayne Huizenga owned, and I guess still owns, Waste Management. That's a garbage collection mega company. And he also owned Blockbuster Video. Do you remember videos?
Do I ever? That was my Friday nights as a high schooler.
Okay. He owned Blockbuster Video, and he, like I said, owned the Florida Marlins and did start an expansion team in Florida, and he was going to name them the Florida Blockbusters. And when I was at the Mednick Group, we had the job of doing that logo. So I actually did a logo for the Florida Blockbusters. But then the NHL said, they put the kibosh on that. They said, you can't name your team after a business. We have like guidelines or whatever. They just made this edict. And it was interesting because they let the Anaheim Mighty Ducks be named after a movie. So it wasn't like it was the Anaheim Disney Worlds, or Disneylands in that case. They let that one slide because it wasn't technically the name of the business, but it was something. It just didn't make sense that they wouldn't allow Blockbusters, but they did allow the Mighty Ducks. And anyway, they eventually became the Florida Panthers instead.
Do you have this Blockbusters logo? Is this something the world can see? I asked you this on a recent episode, and you said, no, you keep them in your back pocket.
That's one I don't need to keep in my back pocket. I did it a long time ago. It's not very good. I'm going to see. I think I still have that. It's on a piece of paper. I don't even have it digitally, but I'll see if I can dig it up, scan it, and send it to you. That one you can put on the socials.
All right. Fantastic. We will look forward to that one. Dan, in the meantime, thank you very much. This was a fun, Rocky-themed Studio Simon Stumper, near and dear to my heart, being a Philadelphian by birth and by culture. So I am that was a fun one for me. Hey, we will see you next time. In the meantime, go check out Dan on Instagram, studio_Simon. Dan, we'll see you next time.
I am looking forward to it. Thank you, Paul. Hope you have a great week. See you next one.
Introducing MLB's Traveling Spaceship Show with Captain Sarah Gianna, her co-pilot Jax, and Bob the supercomputer. Travel through space and time to see long-lost highlights, video, and interviews. Blast off Sunday 11 a.m. Eastern on MLB Network.